All right, welcome everyone. This is going to be a very exciting episode today because today I have with me Dirk from PrimeXBT Academy. He is a seasoned trader with a lot of years of experience in the traditional markets as well as the crypto markets. So very happy to have you here and discuss the current price action on the crypto market. How are you doing?
Great. Yeah, thanks for having me here again. Very happy to join here today and discuss a little bit about Bitcoin. I think really with recent moves, there's like endless things to discuss. And I bet a lot of viewers out there are wondering if we've seen already the bottom or is this maybe just a short bull run in a still existing bear markets, and how to position themselves, how to prepare a bit for what might be coming up in the future still.
All right, beautiful. Let's run the intro, and right after we're going to talk about the potential bottom for Bitcoin. All right, so you talked about yesterday you had a trading signal for Bitcoin. Now, hopefully that was a long signal.
It was actually, yeah. It was, and it's like I know maybe we can share my screen and I can kind of sketch it out on the chart for you guys. Also,
yeah, go ahead and share your screen. Can you?
I have already, so I think you just need to activate it.
All right. Can you activate it, or do I need? I think if you press
I think you need to, because it's like still gray for me.
I'm adding it right now. All right, there it is.
Awesome. Here we go.
So Bollinger Bands, right?
Sorry, what?
Is that Bollinger Bands?
That is Bollinger Bands, absolutely. And I'm using those Bollinger Bands. Actually, I'm going to explain how I'm using those for the signal here. And the important thing here is, for me, this is a very exciting signal because it stems from a trading strategy that has a 100% success rate for me, which is something.
100%?
I said 100% as a trader. That's like something I would normally never take into my mouth. But this one really is so strong. It hasn't failed me once in the last years, not only for Bitcoin, for other assets that as well, if you're patient enough to wait until you see a good signal. And what this really does by the end of the day is to look for so-called squeeze patterns. A squeeze pattern is something that you can see here. I marked this. So last time we had this forming here in the beginning of June, where the Bollinger Bands contract and come very close to each other, which means nothing else that we are in a setting with a low volatility. Yeah, so we find somewhere a middle ground. We don't see super large swings to the upside anymore. We don't see super large swings to the downside anymore. And whenever that happens and you see a sideways moving range like here, and then you can really bet on that sooner or later you're going to have a volatility outbreak to either the upside or the downside. Last time this happened, the volatility break was here to the downside. And all I do here really is that I wait until I see a nice large candle. So the last time this was a red candle, which closes below the red Bollinger Bands, below the lower Bollinger Band here. And what you normally see then, and it played out beautifully last time again, is a couple of days up to a couple of weeks, as a matter of fact, price action into the same direction. So if you would have entered, like me last time, the signal here, you would have entered around about at 26.5 to 27,000, a short position. And well, it went down all the way to 17.5 as a bottom. So there was plenty of time, obviously, then to adjust your stop loss and take some profits, for example. And we are seeing the same now, or maybe before I go to the current signal, let me show you one more example. Where actually I also did videos on both examples. I'm showing you all three examples. So the last time before that this happened was actually back then in July 2021, where it was the opposite, where we had this squeeze pattern, and then it broke out to the north, and that was, you know, the beginning stages of the bull run that ultimately led us to our all-time high in Bitcoin at 69,000. So very strong signal, and we are seeing it again here at the moment. So again, here since the beginning of July, we had this accumulation phase, I want to call it, in Bitcoin with rather low volatility. We saw the The Bollinger Bands contracting again, coming very close to each other. And then yesterday night, we had a breakout from there. Let me zoom in here a little bit. A breakout from there with a close above the upper Bollinger Bands, which for me is a long signal. So I'm expecting at the moment that Bitcoin could move to somewhere between 27.5 to 30,000 US dollars. I'm having my stop loss down here at the middle Bollinger Bands at around about 21,000 US dollars. So I have a very good risk reward ratio on this trade as well. So this is what I'm seeing currently, and let's see if this continues to have 100% success rate for me.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, I could definitely see how it does have a high success rate because, I mean, when you have that squeeze pattern with the Bollinger Bands, it's usually it's usually quite tight range, and you know, the fact that it's on the daily here, when you have that confirmation with the daily close, it's usually a pretty powerful breakout out of that.
That is very important what you were saying there, because things like this work best in the higher time frame. So daily time frame, if you're like very patient, weekly or monthly time frame, the lower you go in the time frame. So if you're a scalper and you want to ride the 1 minute chart or 5 minute or 50-minute charts, it works there too, but you have to be very, very careful and very selective. So you really need to wait for the perfect setup there. Anything that looks a little bit off is going to fail probably.
Also, you know, the squeeze pattern I looked at when you kind of looked at the history of Bitcoin here with the Bollinger Bands on, like the squeeze pattern, does it have to be range, or can it be like it? I mean, it technically can't be a trend, right? Because if it's a trend, it's not going to squeeze, right? So it has to be a range, and then it doesn't really, like the Bollinger Bands, the fact that it's squeezing together and becoming like a tight range, it obviously like visually adds a good indicator to kind of show that it's tight, you know, price action is, you know, losing volatility and it's creating a range. But then you're going to have you're going to have so many different traders seeing this using different techniques and different analysis. I mean, I think that's the patterns, and that's the type of technical analysis that works best, right? When you have higher time frame traders, and then you're having low time frame traders looking at this breakout as well, using different indicators. So I think that is also
absolutely. I mean, basically, it's not, you know, oh, the Bollinger Bands give me a signal here. All it shows you by the end of the day is there's a phase of low volatility. On every market, phases of low volatility mean that there is some sort of accumulation taking place again. So it's like the bears, for example, if we were in a downtrend before that, they don't dare to enter at any price in short positions anymore. The bulls are also not so sure anymore what to do. So once you have a really nice candle breaking out of this range, it's a strong indication that volatility is going to pick up again. And normally when volatility picks up, it tends to continue into the direction that it first indicated, at least for a while. Yeah, sometimes, of course, it can work out very well, like we saw in July 2021. The last signal now was only valid for a couple of days. Still, it was a solid move, you know, almost 10,000 US dollars in Bitcoin that you could have maximum reached there.
All right, so I want to share my screen, and I want to compare the two. All right, weird. That's right. All right, so I'm going to share my screen here. I'm going to compare the two, because I'm basically looking at the same stuff, but I'm not looking at Bollinger Bands, right? So I have well, first of all, I'm using the Fib tool, so let's add the Fibonacci retracement tool, and I'm going to add that one from all the way from 0 and to the top at 69,000. And I've been looking at this for quite a long time, and I've said that, you know, the bottom of the bear market is going to be somewhere. Well, I obviously I don't know, but I think so. The probability of having the bear market ending somewhere in this area. I mean, the low is, you know, 14.5, 15K, so it's quite low. and I've always used the daily 50 EMA as some sort of confirmation of the trend. So if I want to go long in an altcoin, I need to make sure that Bitcoin is above the daily 50 EMA, and if I want to long Bitcoin, I would need it to be above the daily 50 EMA as well. So if you add the daily 50 EMA here, you will see that it's testing it right now. This is on the weekly, but that's the daily 50. So it's testing it right now. So for my high time frame bottom thesis here, I've talked about two on-chain metrics, which is the MBRVC score and the NUPL. I believe I've showed you this in other webinars we had months ago. And those two indicators is actually now putting in the buy signals, right? They're in the buy zones. And we entered the buy zone a couple of weeks ago on those. And I said, I wanted to have that happening inside this area right here on the fib. And I would then need to have some sort of accumulation range down here, and then a reclaim of the daily 50. And that's actually what's happening right now. You see, you have that daily range right here, and this is the breakout that you're showing on your chart as well. This is the breakout above that upper part of the Bollinger Bands, the break above that the range high area around here. And if you add back the daily 50, you'll see that it's testing that area right now. So a reclaim of the daily 50 would alert me and say, all right, it's now time to start looking at a long position on Bitcoin. I've already started accumulating Bitcoin, in this area, not as much as I would like to have done if this is the bottom. That's just how it is, And looking at this, I like to use that as I call it the reload zone, and this would then be the short reload zone using the high and the low, or from the high to the low, and that comes in right here at that 28K area. So as you said, I believe you said 27.5 to 30.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's pretty much the same area. So the question is then, first of all, what's next for Bitcoin, and when is the high time frame bottom confirmed? And what's your opinion on this? Do you believe that with everything that's going on with the macroeconomics around the world, do you believe that this is it?
I don't believe that, and I want to show you a couple of charts, actually, or a couple of economic indicator layovers, so to say, to kind of support my thesis. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. Would be great if that was the bottom already.
Yeah, we all hope you're wrong.
we all hope that, but hope is always bad for trading, as everybody has to learn the hard way eventually. But look, maybe let's start here with the stock market. And I mean, we've seen all the past year again how close the relationship between the stock market, especially the S&P 500 and NASDAQ, and Bitcoin, or the cryptocurrency markets in general, is, especially when we're in a downtrend. And the one thing that everybody is looking obviously at the moment is inflation. So on this chart, you see this orange line, which shows you the US inflation data, and the candlestick chart here in the background, that is the S&P 500. And I went back here all the way to actually 1960 and looked at times where we had high inflation, very high inflation in the USA. So here in 1970, 1974, 1980, 1990, and last time in August 2008, with a banking crisis going on there. And obviously, now we have the same problem again. And what I noticed there is that whenever we hit peak inflation, so when inflation came ticking down again, like for example here or here, that was usually also the time where we were at, or at least very close to, the bottom of the stock market. So, and this is because the stock markets like to front run the economy. So while everybody is still talking about, oh, we are in a recession, inflation is so high, usually the stock markets will turn around eventually again. So what I'm waiting for now is, so this actually worked very well in the past decades, 4 out of 5 times. There was one time here in 2008, if you would have taken this as an indication, where still the stock market would have fallen by roughly 40%. So you would have been a bit early there. In the long run, it wouldn't have mattered really, but usually we tend to not look at so much the long run when we as traders. So what I'm waiting now for here is floor inflation to maybe in August or September tick a little bit down again. Maybe go from, what did we have last time now, 9.1% or 9.4%, maybe down to 8% or 8.5%. Because that would indicate that somewhere here around this area in the S&P 500 between, let's say, 3,700 and 4,000 points could be the bottom to initiate a new bull run that will take us maybe to 6,000 or 6,500 in the distant future. I'm really talking about an outlook of a couple of years now. And that, sorry, somebody ringing my doorbell here. I'm not going to open now. And this also coincides very well with something I noticed on Bitcoin, and that is a so-called logarithmic regression. Now, I'm not going to go too much into the math and bore you with this. Is basically a mathematical equation, which you can use to try to find patterns in the market and project those into the future. And I've done this here for Bitcoin. And one thing I noticed here is, so maybe let me elaborate a little bit more. It consists of this upper channel, this red channel, which is, so to say, a zone where you should become cautious, where normally we are close to the top. And then you have this green channel down here, which is the normal zone where the Bitcoin price should oscillate between. Most important here is this purple line, which I call the so-called fair price. And one thing I noticed is at every halving, we don't have a 2012 halving on here on this chart, but it was the same there. But let's look here at 2016, for example. At every halving, you kind of see Bitcoin being somewhere in this area of the purple line. So in 2016, this purple line was around about at 575 US dollars. The reprice was somewhere, I think, at 650 US dollars. Same was in 2020 at the halving. We almost hit it there, where the fair price was, according to this model, at around about $8,500. This is where we also were. And if we project this now in the future and say, okay, this is probably going to happen if this logarithmic regression holds the test of time, again, for the next halving, somewhere in probably May 2024, you can kind of forecast those lines, and you will end up with a fair price of Bitcoin somewhere around 40 to 50,000 US dollars. So that's good news already. And that kind of fits also what I think is going to happen on the stock markets. Once we see inflation ticking down, we are slowly going to see a reversal again. However, the way to go there is a whole different story. As you can see here in the past, after the last halvings, the price didn't straight go up just because there was a halving. There was still some sideways action going on here, sometimes long sideways action where Bitcoin kind of was hovering around this purple fair price line until we went into the bubble mode again, where we kind of touched here the red zone. Although it was a little bit underperforming this time. I think everybody was expecting at least 100,000 for this time. So going forward, what I'm expecting here is somewhat a sideways range. So a sideways range between this lower band here and maybe here the so-called fair price, which still means we're going to see over time rising prices, but be also prepared that there's a possibility that, yes, we are run now to 30,000 US dollars, and after this we plunge down to 20,000 or maybe even 17,000 again. So this is all possible, and this is normal in times like this. If I would have to bet all my money on it, I would say we are going to see somewhat of a volatile sideways range until maybe November 2022, maybe first quarter of 2024, and then we are slowly going to see things getting a little bit brighter again.
Yeah, so basically you're saying Yeah, yeah. You're saying that there's going to be a lot of boring market behavior in
So-called
yeah,
boring if you want to see it as a long term. Of course, because
yeah,
we also take swing trades like the examples you gave just now, and me with this Bitcoin trade, and there a volatility outburst of like 6, 7, 8, or 10,000 US dollars is a lot. And perfect to
but
trade
I think
something like this. But
what?
in the long picture, it's not a lot of movement, when we are
Yeah,
used to like hundreds of percent of move in cryptos.
yeah. So I really did enjoy that analysis. I like the fact that it's you covered the you take into consideration the inflation data and looking at the high time frames here for Bitcoin. So you think well, and I definitely agree with that. We're not going to see a raging bull market until the inflation starts to top out, and
Yeah.
you think we might? I mean, inflation might not have to top out like a high time frame top on an inflation for the S&P 500 or the stock market to rally, to have a couple of weeks rally, because the
Yeah.
inflation might pick up again, right? So you might have a temporary decrease in inflation, which is a good thing, of course, but
Mm.
that might just be temporary. But we're going to see some, I think we're going to see some really big moves if that happens. But then imagine the moves to the downside when inflation then picks up again. I think that's
Yeah,
going to
but
be.
that's the thing. I mean, I was a bit surprised, to be honest, now with the last inflation data from the USA, which was higher than expected again. But
Yeah.
the market really just reacted negative to that on that precise day and recovered very
Yeah, I
quickly.
mean,
Yeah.
I mean that marked the bottom, right?
Mm.
The CPI data marked the, but like you had that I posted a tweet on that. You had like a 1 hour candle marking the bottom on the low of the range
Mm.
perfectly, and that was the low and the beginning of this move that we're seeing. And I'm thinking, it's weird. It's really weird what happened there. And then all of a sudden, like we broke out of the range on Bitcoin, which I saw was highly unlikely.
Mm.
And now what I'm thinking is actually we have a question here for you. What does Doug think about a likely bottom price will be, and what does he think will peak? Where we're going to peak in the next bull run? It's obviously a very hard question to answer. It's
Yeah.
impossible, but you
I,
kind of covered some of it right
yeah.
here.
I think it's of course I understand this is like the question everybody wants to know. I want to know that as well, and I promise you, if I ever find an answer that always is correct, I'm going to share it with you. But so far, nobody has found this answer to my
Could you
knowledge.
share with me first, and then
But we front run everybody, of course. Yeah. But joke aside. Right now, and maybe if you allow me, I'll just share another chart here
Of course,
to
please do.
kind of
I
explain this
really,
a little
I
bit.
really appreciate your analysis here.
So this is
Go ahead.
from a website I super much value, which is called Into the Cryptoverse, which is a quant trading website with a lot of on-chain data, a lot of risk metrics, also run by a very smart guy. I think his name is Benjamin Coven, and go and check
Yeah,
it out
great
if
guy,
you have
great
the
guy. I
time.
watched out his YouTube. I'm not
Yeah.
affiliated with him, but I good
No,
stuff.
me neither. But I'm a customer of him. I rent this on a monthly basis. His work to use for myself. And there's like this one metric which I very much like, and he doesn't share like what risk he measures here actually, but he colors for us when he thinks like, okay, we are now in a low risk environment for Bitcoin in comparison to a high risk environment. And he's really pretty solid really in showing here, once we see this dark blue dots turning up in Bitcoin, eventually we always have reached in the past the bottom of the market. Now, and we see this is happening here right now again. Last time this happened, by the way, was here in March 2020, 13th of March, where you
COVID.
bought Bitcoin at 3,800 US dollars.
Yeah.
So you would still be up by a great margin. And what we see here is like really this dark blue area. However, just because we've reached this dark blue area, as we see in the past, it doesn't automatically mean this is the exact bottom. And this is what he keeps on saying right now. Also, he says, I hope 17,500 was the bottom, But I wouldn't also be surprised if we see maybe 15,000 or 12,500 or even 10,000 US dollars. But if you have a longer time frame for most of your position, which you should have, when you are into Bitcoin, maybe 70% of your stash should be really long time frame. Then it doesn't, by the end of the day, over the next 4 to 8 years, it doesn't really matter if you bought at 20,000 or 25 or 17,500 or 15,000 US dollars.
That's a really good. That's a really good point.
And this is for me, I also scale myself slowly into the market. As a matter of fact, I already started buying at 30,000 US dollars. I had to get rid of some of my long position when we fell under 28,000 again due to risk metrics. But then I started buying at 25,000 again, all the way down to, I think my last buy was around 18,000 US dollars for my long-term stack, that is. Because I also don't know where the bottom is going to be. If we look at where the next top could be, well, I mean, we can project this upper channel here into the future, and then the next top, sorry, not bottom, I meant in this case, probably is going to be somewhere between 150,000 and 250,000 US dollars as a possibility.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if I'm gonna try to answer that question, like I just want to show this, and what I'm thinking is, like, this has been my bottom scenario for, ever since we put on the top here. I started talking about, and then the reload zone were, down here, but it's pretty much the same. And I started talking about how, like, a retest of this level, that would be it's a beautiful area to start accumulating Bitcoin for the long term. And now we're there, and we're putting in something that kind of looks like, a bottom formation. You have a possible daily accumulation range inside the reload zone, like perfectly on these, like the middle of the range goes straight through this midpoint of the reload zone. And but then again, like the I don't know, like the nervous person in me is saying the world is falling apart, Bitcoin is going to drop, right? And it's just going to continue down. The macroeconomics is not going to get better for a long time, and Bitcoin cannot thrive in this environment. But the technical analyst in me says it's highly likely that this is the high time frame bottom. And even if we start moving, even if we start moving like this, it could still be that 7.5 7.6 drop could still be the high time frame bottom. It doesn't have to look like this, right? And then you look at this shot right here, and where would it be like super obvious that we have a bottom? And I would say, just have a breakout, maybe hit that area here, perhaps come down, hit this area, and then break out. Like, for me, this would be what a macro bottom looks like. But for this to happen, I have a very hard time seeing the current economics work the way it's doing today with this happening. I have a very hard time seeing, because, like, Bitcoin is a risk asset, right? And risk assets do not thrive in a environment with high inflation and rising interest rates. It's never really been the case. So I have a very hard time seeing Bitcoin decoupling or whatever that word is from the traditional markets and just continue to rally. But if we, imagine if we start making this move, and on that move or on this bounce right here, or when we are up here, we start seeing inflation decreasing.
Yeah.
That the fact that the inflation is decreasing might be the catalyst to have the major breakout, right? And that's why as soon as we broke below 20K, right? As soon as we broke below 20K, I started a dollar cost averaging strategy on Bitcoin and Ethereum. And that's exactly why, because you don't know when this is going to happen. And when it happens, it's too late to buy this area. It's too late, So that's why I think a very strong strategy at this point, and it's not too late, is to dollar cost average at current prices for Bitcoin, but expect a big move to the downside. I mean, in my head, I'm trying to calculate the loss of a potential move all the way down to 10K, right? Would I be okay with my current position dropping to 10K? And I'm currently filled on like 10% on my long-term position, where I wouldn't be 100% filled until Bitcoin trades around this area. But when we have that breakout, this is when I will start filling up my crypto spot long-term portfolio to 100%. And then if you look at the current the potential targets of where I think the highs might be, I'm going to use the same strategy as I always do, and I'm going to be looking at the minus 618, which is up here at 100,000 something up here, which is should be 100,100. Man, I am slow today. Up here at the minus 618. So we're looking at a and then the way I would like take profits and average out would be up around 60K, and then up around like 85K somewhere here, and then that last take profit at 100 and 110 area somewhere here.
Okay, I think that's actually quite conservative, but I understand where you're coming from. For me, it wouldn't be surprising, actually, because the last bull cycle was a bit underwhelming, obviously because of COVID and inflation now. If we see like things tipping to the other side in the next bull cycle again, which will be like higher than everybody expecting soon. I mean, I wish. Maybe it's really just wishful thinking. Sorry,
so you're say something. Yeah, I mean, it's a four. I mean, yeah, I am quite conservative in my trading, and I believe that at core I'm a swing trader / day trader. I don't really trade the higher time frames, and my take profit strategy for swing trading is like you got to take that profit, right? You got to pay yourself when the market gives you the opportunity to pay yourself. And when it comes to long-term trading, you have to have the same perspective, but slightly different, because you have to, as a long-term trader, take into consideration the high time frame trend, and it takes a while for the high time frame trend to break. And you also have to look at the macroeconomics, right? And if the high time frame trend is valid and the macroeconomics is still supporting a bull market, there's not really a reason to exit the trade, even if I hit my last take profit. But like when I start thinking along those lines, that's when I start making the mistakes of not knowing where I should exit, and kind of seeing price move lower and like, just wait a minute, just wait a minute, and then all of a sudden, like, I'm giving back all the profits. So I think in that sense, I am thinking about just leaving 25% of the position open and just leaving it there based on like a weekly trend, and just leaving it open.
I think scaling out of a long-term position is, no matter what asset you're trading in, always a good strategy to do, because this is also what every successful hedge funds manager or investment manager or family office guy or whatever is going to tell you. Yeah, I have a hypothesis how things are going to work out. But I don't know where exactly the top is going to be, and I also don't know where exactly the bottom is going to be, because those are always areas that are bound with a lot of emotions, which are going to accelerate the markets into that direction. This is something you cannot factor in, really, or it's at least very, very hard to factor this in 100%. So if you start scaling out, I mean, if you would tell me now, hey, I started scaling out last time at 50,000, and my last long position I closed at 63,000, you would be the hero. Really, everybody would say now, wow, really, really well done. But when we were at 69,000, probably you would have had doubts like, oh my God, did I exit too early? And this is what everybody is going through, because the greed factor comes in there. Oh, I could have made $1 million with this. I could have been a zillionaire already now if I wouldn't have exited this position. Set yourself
So I would like to know
goals and then stick to them.
Yeah, exactly. You plan the trade before you enter, and then you stick with the plan. Make sure it's a good plan. I'd like to know is there a trade today, tomorrow? Is there a trade this week on Bitcoin, or is it better to trade this move on an altcoin?
Well, let me go into this again, and I'm going to use into the cryptoverse again here because they have the right tool for this as well. And let me quickly look up here. They have something called the altcoin season index. Yeah, it already loaded up here. So this basically shows you, in this case, over the course of the last 90 days, how Bitcoin in comparison to the top 50 altcoins, minus the stable coins, has been performing. And whenever we have the green zone here, that means we have Bitcoin season. That means Bitcoin is outperforming most altcoins there. Whenever we are in the red zone here, it means we have altcoin season. That means in the past 90 days, the altcoins have been outperforming Bitcoin. You can do the same here for 60 days or 30 days. What we're seeing right now is that Bitcoin has performed better than 38 of the other altcoins. So we had only 12 altcoins in the past 90 days that were performing better. So we are still somewhat in Bitcoin season right now. However, this, of course, is a tool you somewhat need to use anti-cyclical. So usually it's too late to enter full Bitcoin when we are in the zone, Bitcoin season. And usually it's too late to enter into altcoins when we are in altcoin season up here. So according to this, because we are down here. Sorry?
I just want to pause and add something here, because you said like it's too late. When it's in altcoin season, it's too late, and when it's in Bitcoin season, it might be too late. And especially with the altcoin season. I'm sorry for interrupting you, but this is something I've been thinking about so long. As an altcoin trader and as a crypto trader, we always see people talking about an altcoin season at the top of that altcoin season. And the reason for that is because it's very obvious to identify a trend when the trend is obvious, right? It's very easy because you have higher highs and higher lows. But what's much harder is to identify clues of a downtrend ending and a new one starting. And it's at that point when you have perhaps the first or second higher high and higher low, that's when you want to get in on the altcoins. If you look at the altcoin market right now, that's exactly what's happening. This might be a good time to perhaps get ready to enter a couple of altcoins for that move on Bitcoin up to 28K. Because when Bitcoin is getting close to 28K, altcoins have probably already topped out.
Exactly. That's exactly my takeaway from it as well. So, I mean, the perfect setup would be here if really we would see maybe just one or two altcoins that have performed better over the course of the last 90 days. But nonetheless, we are in an era here where I would say, like, okay, if you believe that we are going to see Bitcoin running up to 28,000, maybe even 30,000, there for sure are altcoins who are going to outperform Bitcoin. The question, of course, is always which altcoins are those? I mean, we've seen, for example, Matic have a crazy performance in the last days and weeks. I like to stick with Bitcoin. I'll be honest with you here because it's the flagship just now, and this like adds or takes away another thing I have to think about in my trade from my list. So this way I don't need to think about altcoin season and Bitcoin season. However, if I really see it ticking down here to Bitcoin outperforming every altcoin out there, or 98%, I for sure would pick some altcoins from the top 10 into my swing trading portfolio. Absolutely. Contrary to this, of course, once we enter the red zone here, then altcoin season is over for me. Again, here, you're not going to be able to catch the top. You're not going to be able to catch the bottom on your favorite altcoin. If you're able to utilize 60 or 70% of the move, that's a great success already.
Yeah, I want to show you what I'm watching, and thank you for that insight. It's very very interesting. I think I'm going to be using that site more, and probably going to see a lot of member influx to that website after this live stream. What I've been watching last couple of days, I'm going to show you a couple of ideas that I've shared with not my community, because I don't have a community, at least not publicly disclosed yet. But I do have a very private, closed, like trading group where a couple of traders were kind of sharing ideas with each other. But this is what we've talked about, right? So we had, like, we look at Cardano here, for example. So what I looked at is I wanted to see that break of that level, and that would just be like the perfect level. But so often when you see Bitcoin start moving like this is a very strong high momentum move for bulls right here. So there's like a lot of momentum to the upside. There's very little pause before the next move, and usually what happens when Bitcoin does that is altcoins will front run any important level, and that's problematic for me because I tend to only wait for the perfect levels to get hit. So it's going to be few trades for me, but the trades are going to be quite good, right? So I wanted to see that retest. Now that never happened. So it instead test the 50% right here. And it happened on so many altcoins. And this is what I'm saying when I say you're going to catch that trend early, right? And I believe that trend is starting right here, because you will see here that you had that bounce and then Cardano broke above the 50. And I believe that this is where it could potentially be starting right now. I'm not going to say altcoin season because I don't really like that word, because it's just trends. I don't really care what we call it. It's just trends. But I believe that if we get this from Cardano, as just an example, we might have that move that will follow Bitcoin up to the 28K area, this level right here. So it's very very interesting scenario, because the fact that Bitcoin is above the daily 50 and the daily 20 now tells me that, according to my system, it's okay for me to go long on Bitcoin and altcoins, and especially altcoins that is above these two daily moving averages as well. And that's like Cardano. You have Monero, which is now trending above the daily moving averages. So there's a lot of potential here. And then, of course, you have coins which are retesting the daily 20 EMA and the daily 50. That would be like a target. But what I would say is, like, look for the altcoins that are above the daily 50 EMA and have started a trend. And there's quite a few of them out there, like Sand, for example. This is one of the strongest moving coins right now, and it's above the daily 50 and the daily 20, and it's about to perhaps and of course, yes, I missed this trade as well. But it could potentially be starting a new trend here. And it's I believe, for the maximum opportunity for this trend, it's in the next couple of days, or today or tomorrow, that you want to be entering these altcoins. And I do have a feeling that it's either going to be a bounce on that retest, or Bitcoin is just not going to be able to close above that daily 50. And if it's not going to close above the daily 50, if we're going to see a fake out, yeah, that's the end of that scenario.
Yep.
Because remember, like, I'm not bullish. I'm just very happy that we have movement, right? But the way Bitcoin is moving right now, we got 15 hours before the daily close. There's nothing that indicates that this is, in my book, confirmed, because it could be just be a daily fake out, right?
I mean, we closed above the 200 weeks moving average. So that is, for me, also a very strong indication here. But you are right about the 50. That would be perfect. Actually, closing above that one would give an extra level of confirmation to this whole setup. Yeah.
My confirmation now, I always most traders, I believe, having a daily close is good confirmation of a breakout, but I want to have a daily open and close to confirm.
Okay.
So daily open and close. All right, my mother is calling me. A bad time to be calling me right now. Daily open and close will be, well, come on. Maybe not now. Right. Maybe she's calling all over the place, phone and computer and everything. Maybe you could, if you have any altcoins you're watching or any ideas for the altcoin market, maybe something that maybe you agree with me, or do you have a completely
in
different
general, I agree with you. I mean, I said just now, I saw that Matic was jumping as crazy. Maybe if we, let me just open a new one here, new layout. We have, here's another Bitcoin layout I think we can use. Oh, that one has a bit too many indicators on it, but we can do like this. Let me take away the trends here quickly. And if we look in general at, I mean, a good indication always also to determine when is altcoin season or when is a good time to buy altcoins is if you have a look at the Bitcoin dominance overall, which has been quite low. I've been actually expecting it to go back to 50 in this downtrend. But one factor that we see in this bear market that we didn't have so much in the last bear market was the dominance of stable coins. Because in a bear market, in the crypto bear market, like in all other bear markets, risky asset bear markets, that is such as stocks, for example, you always have normally the option of saying, if I don't want to stay in that asset class anymore, I'm going to cash out. So I'm either going to have fiat money on my account, or nowadays, as crypto traders, popular, of course, also is to cash out and use stable coins. Obviously makes the reinvestment part later easier as well. So this has taken a lot away from this Bitcoin dominance, but you can see the last day it also jumped a bit up and down there. And so that would be an indication whenever we reach a high level of Bitcoin dominance, sooner or later we'll have a so-called altcoin season. Now things are a little bit different this time, because if I look here at the macro trends for most altcoins, so if we look here, for example, at Ethereum, Bitcoin, we can clearly see we had a macro downtrend. It has been broken a little bit. This is what Lib just said right now. So maybe there is a turnaround. Goes hand in hand with what we are seeing in Bitcoin, US dollar is general at the moment. But I mean, look at this here, Ripple, also Cardano. It's still a little bit of a macro downtrend. And in the long run, I would be careful that just because we see a dip up here, for example, here in Cardano, to already say like, oh, this is the altcoin season, I should go all in on altcoins now. I'm going to have 500, 1,000% return within a month. I'm exaggerating right now, but you know, this is the type of stuff you very often see at the moment also again on Twitter. As soon as we just see a little bit of turnaround, people go crazy again. So I always like to say, when in doubt, zoom out. So instead of maybe just looking at 3 candles like this and saying, oh, wow, clearly it's an uptrend again, and it's going to crazy levels again, zoom a little bit out to see in the long picture, this is still a very, very minor movement, and there still has a lot of things that need to happen until you really can call it a turnaround. So that's why I say at the moment, I don't expect like so super much outperformance of altcoins, of most altcoins. There are always going to be like 1, 2, or 3 altcoins in the top 50 that will clearly outperform Bitcoin for sure. And I know later on you will say like, yeah, Dirk, but this altcoin has outperformed. You were wrong about this. Yeah. But I don't know which one of the 50 it's going to be. And fair critic, by the way, as well. But really, in the long run, if we look at the macro picture, we are still in a downtrend of altcoins against Bitcoin. I'm expecting actually until November that we see an uptick of the Bitcoin dominance back to 48 to 50%. And then we are going to see the turnaround maybe of something like a real altcoin season starting. Because remember, right now, we are really talking about swing trading moves here. We're talking about a potential move of Bitcoin from now 23,500 to maybe, if we are lucky, 28,000. If we are very lucky, 30,000. In the whole scheme, long-term run, that doesn't really mean that much. So be careful. This could be over very fast again, and then everybody's going to be set again because everybody's realizing, hey, we are still in the bear market.
Yeah, so I getting so many alerts here. Sorry about that. So yeah, you talked about the at certain conditions, looking at the BTC dominance, some traders want to park their capital in stable coins, and actually a good way to do that is parking your coins in stablecoin, and then if you want to try the forex market with those stable coins, you can do that on PrimeXBT, which is the exchange I use to trade Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the forex market. So you can use the link in the description below, and I have a code where you can get up to 7,000 USD deposit bonus, and also a code where you can get 25% discount on fees if you use that link. And also remember to follow Dirk on PrimeXBT Academy. I also have links in the description below. This guy is a very seasoned trader and has some insanely good the combination with technical analysis and on-chain analysis. So I really appreciate the insights here today. What I wanted to comment on as well is like we're still in the downtrend. So when I say I'm not saying buy all coins here. Like no way. Like long term, I'm only interested in buying small amounts of Bitcoin and Ethereum. But as a trader, it's important that like we as traders, especially trend following traders, and I believe that is most of the traders out there, and I believe that is where new traders should be focused on, trying to identify trends and being a trend trader. But we basically have to ask ourselves two questions, right? So what is the trend? And then how can I participate in that trend while managing the risk along the way accordingly to the trend? And the way I do that is like we look at the trend that we can clearly see on most altcoins. We can look at Cardano here as an example. And yeah, this is let's look at perhaps this as well. Instead, a cleaner chart. So this is Cardano right here, and it's on the daily. And this is not a chart you want to be buying, right? Just be clear about that. This is not a trend you want to go all in on because you're probably going to lose everything. So like you don't want to buy this. However, there is some things we want to look at as trend traders, and we want to look at the behavior of the trend and then look for clues of changes in behavior. And two main things I use in my analysis is the daily 20 EMA, which is the blue one, and the daily 50 EMA, which is the gray one. And I try to see like what's the behavior of the trend according to these moving averages right here. And obviously right here, this is a fake out, like a strong move, but a fake out, not interesting, at all. Same thing here, but then we have something interesting going on here. And this is the breakout. Of course, you have like way too strong of a candle to be able to trade this on the daily. But if we could get something like this going on here, reclaim of the daily, like daily 50, and then trade above here for quite some time, like a couple of days or maybe even a week, that will alert us to say, the market has now accepted Cardano above the daily 50, above this level. And if we are seeing like a low time frame trend forming, on the 4 hour, that would perhaps look something like this, right? Then I would be willing to take a bet that this trend will continue at least for a while to make me say I might be able to get a 2 or perhaps even a 3R trade out of this trend right here before it ends, right? So I try to look at resistance levels like that one, right? And I'm now seeing a change in behavior of the high time frame trend that might potentially be a trend shift, but it's not going to be a trend shift until you do something like this on the daily time frame. And until that happens, it's still a downtrend. And what you have to do in that case is take profits early because you never know, right? So that would be my last take profit target. So if we see a move that kind of goes like this, I need to make sure that the risk to reward of this trade, like my average exit, needs to be 2R. So let's say my average exit is here, right? That's going to be my average exit, or maybe even here. Then I need to make sure that my stop loss could be in this area for that trade where the final take profit would be up here. So because of the fact that we are in a major downtrend, tells us that if we go long an altcoin, we need to be very careful doing so, and we need to wait for higher confirmation. But if Bitcoin breaks above 28, 30K, whatever, and Cardano starts doing this, then perhaps we don't need to have the same level of confirmation. We could maybe take a trade where the confirmation is good on 3 out of 5 indicators instead of 5 out of 5 that we need to have in a bear market. So it's all about adapting your strategy and adapting your trading style to the current market conditions, I believe. So yeah, altcoins is in a major downtrend. Actually, all of the financial markets of the world, except the inflation chart, is in a downtrend pretty much. So you have to be very careful going long on anything.
I mean, look at if you just zoom a little bit out on this chart again, maybe it's like it clearly doesn't get clearer that this is in a downtrend. Yeah, and this is the interesting thing. As when you are a trader beginner, your natural impulse usually probably is to be to try to time bottoms and tops, so to be a contrarian, I think it's called, to do the opposite of what the majority of the market is at the moment. But this is actually very, very difficult. That took me a very long time until I could do this with a high level of confidence, to position myself against the majority of what the market probably is thinking at the moment. So really start with a trend, and you can just wonderfully see also on this example with Cardano, you pretty much could have shorted Cardano at any time here, and you would have come out with a profit. Of course, when we look at the trend, it's always easy looking back at the trend saying like, hey, you could have done this or that. When in the middle of a trend, you don't know if it's going to continue or not. But the likelihood of a trend to continue is most of the time much, much higher than that you time the reversal of a trend perfectly.
Exactly. Timing, trying to time tops and bottoms is something I know a lot of new traders want to be doing, because that's the point of maximum opportunity. But then again, you have to remember that 95 or even maybe 99% of all new traders that try to become good traders, they either lose everything they have, or they stop trading within a year because it's just not working. And that's because they're not following the flow of the market. They think it all comes down to psychology and your approach to the markets. And I always say TA is easy and trading is hard. And when you only trade based on trying to time tops and bottoms, you don't really take into consideration the your approach when you're sitting at your desk and looking at a chart. You want to make sure that you do what the market kind of tells you to do, and not try to take a trade out of the market or try to win over the market. Because if there's no obvious trade within a trend, it's just better to let it go and not try to find something that's not obvious and that's not there.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's the hardest thing to do, because you have to admit towards yourself that you have been wrong. I'm going to give you an example. I think a couple of months ago, we were also doing something together on the stream, and we were trading around 40,000 in Bitcoin. But I was convinced back then that around 30,000 we're going to see the bottom. So I bought all the way down from 40,000 down to 30,000. But I completely reversed my position. This is a swing trade position, by the way. I completely reversed my position after we dove under 28,000. So I had to accept the loss, and I had to accept I was wrong here. The market is always right. Not Dirk Hartig is right because he's a godlike trader or whatever. The market is right. So if I would have been stubborn, I would still be hanging on to that position. But instead, I reversed it into a short position and made the money back on the short position. So this is what you gotta do, and it's hard to accept, especially towards yourself, that you can be wrong and you will be wrong.
All right, with that, I think we're coming to an end of this live stream. It's been an hour. And guys, if you enjoyed these live streams, and if you want us to have more, more live streams like this one, I think I really enjoyed this. We can, come to take our experience together and kind of try to come to trading conclusions here and find some setups. If you like this, please remember to hit hit that like and subscribe to the channel, and remember to subscribe to Dirk's channel, the PrimeXBT Academy. And yeah, guys, that's it. I would like to thank Dirk for doing this, and hopefully we're going to do many more in the future.
We definitely will. Take care, everybody. Stay safe out there. Always remember to use a stop loss.
Yeah, I got to call my mom back. Somebody in the comments. Yeah, definitely. All right. Take care, guys. Yeah. And thanks for joining. All right. See you guys. Bye.